The biggest mistake you can make is not understanding the trauma behind the clutter displayed by those who experience narcissistic abuse. Here are 10 shocking reasons why conquering clutter caused by narcissistic abuse proves to be a taxing journey. Let's talk about this first one. Emotional attachment to things. Ever noticed how some people just can't seem to part with their stuff? Well, for those who face narcissistic abuse, those things might mean more than you think. See, these items aren't just random objects. They're like emotional lifelines. Picture this. In a world filled with chaos and hurt, these possessions become symbols of happier times, little islands of joy in a stormy sea of pain. And when you've been through the ringer with a narcissist, letting go of that lifeline, it's like trying to swim without knowing which way is up. Next, sense of control. Ever felt like your world's spinning out of control? Well, imagine feeling like that all the time, especially after dealing with narcissistic abuse. It's like being stuck on a roller coaster you didn't sign up for. And you know what's strange? Clutter becomes their way of grabbing onto the steering wheel again. It's like saying, hey, I may not control much, but this mess is mine. It's a silent rebellion against the chaos they've endured. Because when everything else feels like it's slipping away, having some clutter around can feel like a small victory. It's a way of saying, I'm still here, and I still have some say in my life. But deep down, they know it's just an illusion, a Band-Aid on a much deeper wound. So they cling to their possessions, hoping to regain a sense of power over their own lives, even if it's just within the confines of their cluttered rooms. Number 3, fear of letting go. Have you ever noticed how some people just can't seem to clear out their clutter? Well, for those who've been through narcissistic abuse, it's like trying to untangle a knot that just keeps tightening. See, it's not just about the stuff, it's about what that stuff represents. Imagine holding on to things that remind you of your worst moments, afraid that letting go might erase your past, or worrying that tossing them out could make you seem unappreciative or careless. It's like being stuck in quicksand, frozen in place by the fear of sinking deeper. So they hold on, even though every item weighs them down with memories and emotions. It's a cycle that traps them in a cluttered maze of pain and distress, unable to find a way out. Now let's talk about another reason. Experience manipulative conditioning. Ever heard about how some people just can't seem to let go of things no matter what? Well, for those who've been tangled up in narcissistic abuse, it's like being caught in a spider's web of manipulation. Imagine being made to feel like you can't survive without someone else's approval. That's what these abusers do. They twist your mind until you're convinced you're worthless without them. And you know what's crazy? That conditioning sticks around long after the abuser's gone. It's like their voice is still whispering in your ear, telling you that you're not good enough. So when it comes to getting rid of stuff, it's not just about clutter. It's about confronting those deep-seated fears of being worthless or facing backlash. It's like trying to break free from chains you can't even see, but you can feel them weighing you down with every decision. And breaking free from that mental prison, it's a battle that takes more than just cleaning out a closet. It's about reclaiming your worth and rewriting the narrative they tried to impose on you. Number 5, fragmented identity. What do I mean by this? Let's talk about it more. Ever noticed how some people's clutter seems to reflect more than just a messy room? Well, for those who've been through the ringer of narcissistic abuse, it's like their clutter tells a story, one of shattered identities and lost selves. Imagine feeling like you don't even know who you are anymore, like your very essence has been chipped away by someone else's cruelty. That's what happens when you're constantly told you're not good enough, that you don't matter. And you know what? That feeling sticks around long after the abuser's gone. So when you look at their clutter, it's not just random stuff, it's a physical reminder of the chaos inside their minds. It's like they're trying to piece themselves back together, one misplaced item at a time. But no matter how hard they try, there's always something missing, always a piece of themselves they can't seem to find. And until they can reclaim that sense of self-worth and identity, their clutter will continue to echo the turmoil within. Number 6, maybe you can relate to this. Hoarding as coping mechanism. Ever wondered why some people hold on to things way past their expiration date? Well, for those who've been through some severe trauma like narcissistic abuse, hoarding becomes more than just a messy habit. It's a survival strategy. Picture this. When your world's been turned upside down by someone who's supposed to care for you, holding on to stuff feels like holding on to a life raft. It's a way of saying, I may be drowning, but at least I have all these things. And you know what? It works, at least for a little while. Because when you're surrounded by stuff, it's easy to ignore the pain lurking just beneath the surface. But here's the thing. That pain doesn't just disappear. It waits lurking in the shadows until you're ready to face it. And until you can confront those painful emotions and memories head on, your clutter will continue to pile up, shielding you from the truth you're too scared to acknowledge. Number 7. Perceived value in clutter. Ever noticed how some people attach a lot of meaning to seemingly ordinary things? Well, for those who face narcissistic abuse, every item can feel like a lifeline. Picture this. In a world where you've been made to feel worthless, those possessions become like little treasures, proof that you matter. And you know what's interesting? It's not about the actual value of the stuff. It's about what it represents. It's like saying, even though I've been treated like I'm nothing, these things prove I'm somebody. But here's the kicker. No matter how much they cling to their stuff, it can never fill the void left by emotional neglect or abuse. It's like trying to quench your thirst with sand. It might seem like a good idea at first, but it only leaves you feeling emptier than before. So until they can find other ways to validate their worth, their clutter will continue to pile up, a tangible reminder of the pain they're trying so hard to forget. Number 8. Narcissistic abuse victims. Feel shame and guilt. Ever noticed how clutter can seem to pile up faster than you can blink? Well, for those who've endured narcissistic abuse, it's like a never-ending cycle of shame and guilt. Picture this. Every misplaced item becomes a reminder of their perceived failures, feeding into a vicious cycle of self-blame and despair. It's like they're constantly fighting against a tide of messiness. But no matter how hard they try, they just can't seem to keep up. And you know what's really heartbreaking? It's not just about the clutter, it's about what it represents. It's a tangible symbol of their perceived inadequacies, a constant reminder that they're not good enough. So instead of finding solace in a tidy space, they find themselves drowning in a sea of self-doubt and worthlessness. And until they can break free from that cycle, their clutter will continue to weigh them down, a heavy burden they can't seem to shake. Number 9. External validation. Material possessions can become a source of external validation for individuals who have been systematically undermined and devalued by narcissistic abusers. Holding on to clutter may be a subconscious attempt to seek validation and approval from others. Here's the last one. Resistance to change. Ever tried to change something only to feel like you're hitting a brick wall? Well, for survivors of narcissistic abuse, confronting clutter is like facing their worst nightmares head-on. Imagine having to sift through piles of stuff, each item carrying a heavy load of painful memories and emotions. It's like trying to walk through a minefield without knowing where the bombs are buried. And you know what's really tough? It's not just about the clutter. It's about what it represents. It's a constant reminder of the abuse they endured, a physical manifestation of their pain and suffering. So when it comes to making a change, it's not just about cleaning up. It's about facing their demons and taking back control of their lives. But here's the thing. Change is scary. It means stepping into the unknown, letting go of familiar patterns, and embracing a future that's uncertain. And for survivors, that prospect can be downright terrifying, eliciting resistance and apprehension at every turn. But until they can muster the courage to take that first step, their clutter will continue to hold them back, a barrier standing between them and the freedom they so desperately crave. Do you like narcissism-related content? Show your support by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. Until next time.